At some point, you start noticing a strange pattern. Two people can live in the same city, work similar hours, deal with the same stress, yet one becomes sharper over time, and the other slowly dulls. Not weaker, just noisier, more distracted, more tired without knowing why. The difference usually isn't intelligence, or luck, or motivation. It's what they practice when no one is watching. Most people don't have a discipline, they have distractions they rotate between. They call it rest, they call it balance, but deep down they feel untrained. The Stoics noticed this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius didn't talk about talent, he talked about habits. What you return to each day quietly becomes who you are. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. If your free time doesn't challenge you, it slowly controls you. Not dramatically, not overnight, just enough that confidence becomes something you think about instead of feel. The question isn't, what should I do with my life? That's too big, too abstract. The real question is smaller, quieter. What am I practicing every week? Because you don't rise to your intentions, you default to your training. That's why hobbies matter more than people admit. Not because they make life fun, but because they shape your nervous system, your patience, your tolerance for discomfort, your relationship with effort. Most hobbies look harmless from the outside. Some even look impressive. But only a few actually rewire you. Only a few teach you how to stay calm while something inside you wants to escape. Only a few teach you how to keep going after the excitement is gone. Those are the ones that change your life. The first one is physical, but the lesson is mental. Hobby 1, boxing. Not for violence, for composure. When you box, panic introduces itself quickly. Your breath shortens, your thoughts scatter, your body wants to flee. And then you learn something rare. You can breathe inside pressure. You can stay present while tired. You can think while uncomfortable. That skill transfers everywhere. Difficult conversations, deadlines, conflict, uncertainty. Boxing doesn't make you aggressive, it makes you measured. Epictetus wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Boxing forces reality to speak clearly. Fear shouts, but it doesn't get to decide. Hobby 2, journaling. This one looks simple, almost boring. That's why it works. Most people live with unexamined thoughts running their lives. Old beliefs, unquestioned reactions, stories they never stopped to challenge. Writing slows thinking down. It makes patterns visible. You start noticing the same worries recycling themselves, the same excuses changing outfits, the same fears pretending to be logic. Seneca ended his days by reviewing himself honestly, not with shame, with precision. Journaling becomes a quiet courtroom. You observe, you don't attack. Over time, emotional clarity replaces emotional chaos, and confidence stops being loud. It becomes grounded. Hobby 3, weightlifting. Not for appearance, for authority over yourself. The bar doesn't care how you feel. It responds only to action. You learn something subtle but powerful. Effort is negotiable until it isn't. Each session teaches your nervous system that struggle is survivable, that tension doesn't equal danger. That lesson changes how you approach work, stress, responsibility. Strength isn't the muscle, it's the certainty that you can apply effort on demand. Once you have that, hesitation loses its grip. Hobby 4, calisthenics. Your body tells the truth here, immediately. You can't hide behind machines, or momentum, or excuses. If you can't hold yourself up, you see it. If your balance is weak, gravity exposes it. It's humbling, and that's the point. Progress comes slowly, but unmistakably. One day you can't, then suddenly you can. That teaches patience with yourself and respect for process. The Stoics believed limits are feedback, not verdicts. Calisthenics makes that belief physical. And then there's the quiet game that trains your mind. Hobby 5, chess. No noise, no speed, just consequence. Every impulsive move costs you. Every moment of patience rewards you. You learn to pause, to think ahead, to detach emotion from decision. You lose pieces, you lose games, and slowly you lose the need to react immediately. That alone changes how you handle money, relationships, power. You stop chasing small wins, you start protecting position. That mindset is rare and valuable. Many people think confidence comes from winning. The Stoics knew better. Confidence comes from preparation, and preparation is just practice repeated quietly. Most people collect interests. The disciplined choose one arena and stay long enough to change. Not forever, just long enough to be reshaped.
There's a moment most people quietly fear. It's not failure, it's being seen before feeling ready. That fear shapes more lives than we admit. It decides who speaks and who stays silent, who sets boundaries and who absorbs disrespect, who moves forward and who waits for permission that never comes. That's why the next hobby is the one most avoided. Hobby 6, communication. Not performing, not persuading, clarity. Learning to speak simply and directly forces you to confront yourself, your hesitations, your need for approval, your habit of softening truths to stay comfortable. At first, it feels awkward. Your voice sounds unfamiliar to you. Your pauses feel loud. That discomfort is the training. You learn to finish sentences, to hold eye contact, to say no without explanation. Over time, something shifts. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop equating calm with weakness. The Stoics believed that self-command was the highest form of power. Clear speech is self-command made visible. People feel it before they understand it. Hobby 7, reading. Not scrolling, not skimming, reading slowly. A single book read properly can correct years of distorted thinking. You start noticing how many of your thoughts aren't yours. They were borrowed unconsciously from fear, culture, or repetition. Reading philosophy introduces friction. It challenges assumptions. It reframes pain. It stretches perspective beyond the emotional present. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself, not instructions for others. That's what good reading does. It isn't entertainment, it's conversation across time. When done consistently, it builds inner vocabulary, and without language, reflection collapses. Reading trains depth in a shallow world, and depth creates stability. Hobby 8, running. Simple, relentless. No technique hides effort here. No shortcut bypasses discomfort. The body complains early. The mind negotiates immediately. Slow down. Stop. Tomorrow. Running teaches you how to respond to that voice. Not with aggression, with indifference. Step after step, you learn that resistance peaks and passes, that discomfort lies, that quitting is loud but temporary.
This skill transfers silently. You become someone who keeps promises to yourself, and that changes how seriously you take your own word. The Stoics believed endurance was moral training. Running is endurance made personal. You don't run to escape life, you run to meet it without flinching. Now we enter a different kind of territory, less visible, more consequential. Hobby 9, learning a high-income skill. This isn't about ambition, it's about leverage. When you learn to produce value with your mind and hands, dependence weakens. You stop waiting for opportunity, you start creating usefulness. The confidence this builds isn't loud, it's rooted. You know you can adapt, you know you can learn, you know you can survive change. That knowledge relaxes you. Epictetus taught that freedom begins where dependence ends. Skill is modern self-reliance. And finally, there is the hobby that quietly reshapes identity, one most people misunderstand. Hobby 10, creation. Writing, building, explaining, designing. Creation forces clarity. You discover what you actually understand because confusion cannot be hidden once you try to express it. You learn structure, patience, consistency. You stop consuming endlessly and start contributing thoughtfully. At first, few notice. That's fine. The real change happens internally. You shift from observer to participant, from opinion to output, from potential to proof. In Stoic terms, creation is alignment, action matching values, and that alignment is peace. Here's the thread connecting all of this. None of these hobbies work if you collect them. Transformation doesn't come from variety, it comes from devotion. Choose one arena, enter it willingly, stay long enough to struggle honestly. 6 months is enough to change posture, speech, self-trust. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become steadier. In the final part, we'll bring everything together. Why one habit beats 10 intentions, why discipline isn't force, and why the calmest people are often the most prepared.
Most people think change arrives as a moment, a breakthrough, a realization, a surge of motivation. The Stoics knew better. Change arrives as repetition, ordinary, unglamorous, often unnoticed while it's happening. That's why so few people experience it. They wait for intensity, but transformation prefers consistency. When you choose one practice and return to it day after day, something subtle begins to happen. You stop debating with yourself. You stop needing to feel ready. You stop asking whether today counts. You show up. And showing up rewires identity. Not because the practice is magical, but because your mind learns a new pattern. I do what I said I would do. That belief is rare, and once installed, it spills into everything. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you handle pressure. People start noticing changes they can't fully describe. You don't explain yourself as much. You listen more carefully. You react less. Not because you're detached, but because you're trained. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a person should stand upright, not propped up, not leaning on praise, not collapsing under discomfort. A serious hobby does that. It gives structure to the inner world, a place where effort is clean and consequences are honest. Over time, that structure becomes calm. Calm is misunderstood. It's not softness, it's not passivity, it's the absence of internal chaos. The calmest people are usually the ones who have tested themselves privately. They've met resistance before. They've argued with fatigue. They've watched excuses rise and fall without obeying them.
That's why confidence becomes quiet. It no longer needs performance, it's supported by evidence. And then something unexpected happens. You stop needing external validation, not because you reject it, but because it stops being necessary. The Stoics warned against living for applause, not because recognition is evil, but because dependency is. A disciplined practice makes you self-contained, not isolated, rooted. You still enjoy success, you still appreciate approval, but your center doesn't move when those things fluctuate. That's freedom. Here's the final observation. Life doesn't ask whether you're talented. It doesn't care how much potential you have. It responds to what you repeatedly do. A single hobby, taken seriously, becomes a mirror. It shows you who you are under pressure and who you could become with patience. Most people keep waiting for confidence to arrive. They wait for clarity. They wait for the right time. But confidence isn't found, it's built. Quietly, daily, through a practice you don't negotiate with. And months later, when your reactions are steadier and your presence feels heavier in the room, it won't feel like a transformation. It will feel normal. That's how you know it worked.